I'm Grace Joseph. I've been emailing you. I am a researcher on a project called Cripping, which is based at the University of Sheffield. It's a big interdisciplinary project funded by the Wellcome Trust. And we're going to be talking about part of the work that we're doing on the arts stream today. And that work is being led by Jamie Hale, who I'll turn over to in a moment. As Jamie's put in the chat, Jamie's going to present briefly about the project and give a bit of an overview, and then we'll move into a Q&A and we'll finish at around past or sooner if there are no more questions. So yeah, I hope that all sounds good. Let me know if you have any problems hearing me or hearing Jamie. And yeah, I think I'll hand over to Jamie now.
Hello everyone, and thank you for the introduction, Grace. I'm just going to share some slides so that everyone can see them. I'll always talk through what's on the slides, but I think it can be useful sometimes to have a visual reminder as well. So to start out, Romeo and Juliet is the creative project that I'm working on and that hopefully you're interested in. So as it stands, I wanted to, as an artist in residence on Cripping, I had a lot of freedom to choose a project that really appealed to me and to find a cohort of people to work on it with me. And I wanted to do something a bit different. And that's where I landed on Romeo and Juliet. It's not traditionally a play about disability, but it is a play about autonomy, independence, taking risks, whether calculated or not, seizing life on your terms. And those all felt like really important themes for us as disabled people, and particularly for disabled people living with a medical precarity, which is often the case for those of us who use ventilation. And I just thought, wouldn't it be fantastic to see Romeo and Juliet through a Cripp lens, to see two disabled characters falling in love on stage, and to ask the question of, if you've got less time, does that change the wisdom of their decision? That's what excites me about it. And the project involves creating that Romeo and Juliet, starting from the script right up to the performance, being like, how do we think that the themes of breath and ventilation overlap with the play? How do we want to build it? I'm casting for the two title roles, Romeo and Juliet, and a third person who could take any position on a creative team. People don't need to have any experience. We, as well as the funding that we have for the project, we have some more funding for the Arts Council, and that's specifically about taking people who don't have experience in theatre and giving them the support and training they need, while also teaching me what I need to do to make sure that the rehearsals are accessible to everyone. So across the project, there'll be these 13 workshops which will explore bits of the play in depth. Then there'll be 3 week-long sessions where we're rehearsing and practicing in a space together. And then there'll be at least a 4-week rehearsal period before the show. This is all nicely spread out across the next few years. It's not as if we have to cram it all in at once. As a research project, I'm an artist in residence, so my job is to make artistic work, and the people on the project will be joining me in that. So we'd all be co-researchers on Cripping. Sorry, one sec. The idea is that we would be bringing our experiences of using ventilation or of having been ventilated part or full time to draw out ideas of what it means to be a person who lives ventilated in society. That the work we do through contemplating Romeo and Juliet and our experiences will build that. Cripping was described by the principal investigator, Kirsty Lydiard, as an urgent new analyses of the politics, processes, and prioritization of respiration and ventilation. And that's what we'll be looking at throughout the play. So in terms of the roles, there is a Romeo, a Juliet, and a design or creative team member. I'm casting any gender and probably any age for all of the roles. The performance roles will involve training and development across 18 months. There'll be a huge amount of support in building skills and confidence, and these roles will be developed through the workshop, the R&D, and the rehearsal processes, but there will also be plenty of one-to-one time with me. With the creative role, we're taking one person, but that person could want to be a set designer or an assistant director or a lighting designer or an access coordinator or a stage manager. The point is that they would be a core part of the team and that they would be in that role during our R&D process, learning the ropes of it, just as the actors would be learning the ropes of acting if that hadn't been done before. And then their role on the final project would be decided later on. So they're exciting because how often do you get roles building up to a major performance that are genuinely designed for people who have no experience? I know that I would have leapt at this opportunity. And to be honest, I still would. I just can't take myself. In terms of the workload, it's a commitment up until 2027. It's a long-term commitment. There are the 13 workshops, the 3 weeks of research and development. Then there'll be lots of one-to-one meetings, rehearsals, line learning sessions. It will all be very supported. It will be paid at £150 for a day or £75 for a half day. And I'll be taking into account making sure that you're supported in having the time you need to learn your part if you've got the part to learn, or to learn your technology or your software or wherever you're at. People need to ideally commit to doing it right up until the end, because swapping out at the last minute will be difficult. But I also know that one can't always. And there have certainly been times where I've said to a project, well, I'm fully committed in that if I'm still alive in 2 years' time, I'll still be on the project. I know that long-term planning can be difficult. The other thing to note is that even if you're there as the creative role, not as a performer, you'll still need to be comfortable taking part in acting, games, and activities, because doing them is part of how we gather data, how we understand breath and ventilation, and how we build a team and community on it. When it comes to eligibility, we talk about living ventilated. So ideally, you would use BiPAP, NIV, or have a tracheostomy and be ventilated, either part-time like me, I'm ventilated at night and if I need it during the day, or full-time ventilated. But as a performer, we would need the performers to perform using ventilation. Everyone would need to be willing to draw on their experiences of ventilation and for those experiences to inform the creative work we're making, because it is so much a process of researching ourselves as we go. If you use other technologies for sustaining your breath, or you used to be ventilated and aren't anymore, or you use ventilation solely for sleep apnea, there are lots and lots and lots of criteria or cases where you might think, do I qualify or not? If you're not sure, contact us. We'll help you work through it. If you're interested in taking part in the Romeo and Juliet, we have a lovely online application process. Now, you can read about the process properly at the link or on the QR code. But what we're interested in is how people bring their experiences as event user to the project, show some evidence that shows some interest or background you have that's relevant to the topic or themes. It might not be theatre interest. It might be that you used to write or draw. It might be that you love going to the theatre but have never made any theatre. It's just to get a sense that it's an art form that you have an interest in. And then for performers, it's a short home filmed video of you reading part of a speech from Romeo and Juliet. And for creative applicants, it's about what design role do you want and why, and evidence of any recent work that you think helps show that that's what you're interested in. So it might be that you want to be a sound designer and you've released an album. So you share that album just to show that you're really interested in sound, even if you've not done it in theatre. If you have questions about the application process, we're here to help, and there's an email address on the website. It's a really exciting project for me. Like, it feels really transformative to be working with two disabled people as the stars of such a well-known play, to have the time and luxury to really develop it together, create it together, to not be against the time pressure that theatre so often is. And I really want it to be a wonderful experience for everyone. So if you think that you would fit this, or you think you know somebody who might, please tell them.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jamie. I realised my introduction of you wasn't very fulsome. I thought you might say so yourself, but Jamie is an award-winning artist and a brilliant director, and is an artistic director of Cryptic Arts. So that's a real bonus of the process as well, getting to work with Jamie. Okay, tell us about yourself.
My name is Jamie Hale, and I'm directing this interpretation of Romeo and Juliet. I'm the artistic and executive director at Cryptic Arts and an award-winning theatre director. I won the Evening Standard Future Theatre Fund Award in 2021 for my play, then titled Not Dying, and I've directed work at various venues, my favourite being the Barbican Centre. As well as running Cryptic Arts, I work freelance across the writing, dramaturgy, and directing arena. But I'm super excited about Romeo and Juliet because we've actually got the time to put into it and to really consider it and rehearse it. And I'm used to projects that have been done in a hurry. So this feels incredibly luxurious to me. I can't wait to work on it.
Cool. Okay, tell us about the project.
I'm going to be directing an interpretation of Romeo and Juliet with the title roles played by performers who themselves use ventilation. Romeo and Juliet is usually seen as a tragedy about two lives cut short. What if instead it's a celebration of two people who might have limited lifespans, but who want to live while they're alive, who want to fall in love, who want to take risks, who want to celebrate what it means to be alive for as long as they are alive. So we're going to be developing an interpretation together. There are three roles, the two title roles and the creative, and as a group, we will be working our way through the script and thinking about all of the themes, the design, how we tell the story that we want to tell together. And the reason that I'm doing this Romeo and Juliet is as part of a wider project called Cripping, which is run at the University of Sheffield by Kirsty Lydiard, and where I'm an artist in residence. And that project is exploring the social experience of breath and ventilation, amongst other things. So as well as being part of the creative team for the show, you and we, because I will also be doing this, will be the researchers and the research participants. We'll be bringing our own thoughts and stories and questions to bear, not just on the work, but also on the questions of the wider project and the wider understandings of what it means to live ventilated.
Awesome, thank you. Tell us about the opportunities.
There are three opportunities on the project. Performers playing Romeo and Juliet, and then one other person who will be a core part of the creative team in the role they set out, whether they're a producer, a sound designer, a set designer, a movement director, an assistant director, an access coordinator. Alongside the two title roles will be one other person who has this experience of living ventilated and who is contributing to the project in some non-performing creative manner. And we haven't set what that's going to be, because actually it could be anything. What we're looking for is someone who brings something to that, their idea, their interest, something shines through, and we think, wow, this is what we want as part of the team and in the room. There are going to be 13 workshops where we work together to unpick the play and how we'll respond to it. There are going to be 3 weeks of research and development where we're together in a space for 5 days, learning the play, learning how it feels to rehearse the play, working with other actors to start building towards the final production. The final production will have at least a 4-week rehearsal period and very possibly longer. As well as the 13 workshops and the 3 weeks of research and development, there'll be lots of one-to-one time with me, particularly focused on line learning or on design learning. These will obviously be paid. People are paid at £150 a day or £75 a half day. If being paid is a problem for you, speak to Grace, whose email address is on the application forms.
Good, thanks. Cool. So, why Romeo and Juliet?
I chose Romeo and Juliet partly because I love the play and I've always dreamed of directing it. So in that sense, it was an easy given. But it's also a play that has so many themes that relate to disabled people. As a play, breath and contagious illness are threads that run through it in the background and are very rarely drawn out by directors in production. Whereas for me, on reading it, I was reminded of the pandemic and of all of those threads in the back of every conversation. Beyond that, it's so much a play about independence, autonomy, family control, escaping, making your own decisions, managed risk going wrong. And these are all themes that speak so strongly to the disabled life. I was interested in Romeo and Juliet as the coddled and overprotected children of their parents, where the other characters were more outside that control. I was interested in the idea that it's always seen as a tragedy because they die young and shouldn't have. Many people who use ventilation have conditions that are likely to limit their lifespan. I started to wonder, what is Romeo and Juliet if death is expected? When you go and see it as the audience, you know they're going to die. Why not have them know they're going to die as well? And then see what it means to celebrate being alive while you can. Those are the threads I drew out, but maybe when we're working on it together, you'll draw out different ones. I hope so.
Cool, so who is this for?
This project for me is about what it means to live ventilated. It's about what it means for decisions about risk to be different for you, what it means for so much of your life being dependent on medical technology to keep you breathing, when breath is so much a fundamental part of how we understand ourselves and how we exist. I'm looking for people who share that precarity, that experience of ventilation. That means, I suppose, that I'm prioritizing people who use BiPAP, NIV, or tracheostomy ventilation because of that shared experience, and because so much of the play is an interpretation of what it is to be having that experience, with the main characters needing to use ventilation while they perform. Those performers realistically need to be ventilation users. It doesn't need to be full time. I use it at night and when I need it during the day. I both do and don't use it in performances depending. However, if you're not somebody who fits into the category of being on BiPAP, NIV, or tracheostomy ventilation, part or full time, and have other experiences of life sustaining and breath sustaining medical technologies or other ventilation experiences, then please do get in touch with Grace to discuss eligibility. People who use CPAP for sleep apnea aren't likely to be eligible on those grounds, just because it's a very different experience in terms of medical precarity. But again, if you feel like your experience on CPAP is very different to others, talk to us about it. We'd far rather hear from you and be able to make our own decision than have you count yourself out without that discussion.